Welcome to today's episode of Table Talk with
the Mercer County ESC.
Welcome back to Table Talk.
Table Talk. I forgot what it was called for a second.
Oh my God. I just had to remind her, this is episode 7.
7.
I can't believe we're at 7 episodes already.
7.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of us for making it this long.
I know, without too many fights, to be honest.
Not many, no, just a few.
Yeah, and we are back in our podcasting studio with our mugs. You want to tell them about our mugs?
Lindsay's really proud of her mug.
Yeah.
She had to, I'll tell you, it's Diet Coke. It's not coffee.
Don't tell my secret.
Which actually, it makes me uncomfortable when people drink cold things from hot mugs. But regardless, we were gifted that from Find Your Grind. A few of our districts use Find Your Grind.
Yeah, so I just wanted to advertise. If you don't know about Find Your Grind, we are hoping to have Dan from Find Your Grind come to our November principal meeting.
Yeah,
and we're going to invite others as well. So be on the lookout for that information. So we're going to start off today with
a gift. This is going to be the best gift you've ever been given.
Oh, I don't know if I would go that far, but we'll go ahead and
Wait, no, don't play yet. I got to give some information.
Oh, God. It always makes me nervous when she talks.
No. Okay.
Just kidding.
On that note, you have about 17 seconds of build up, but the build up is what's important, right? We have our exposition, right? Where you're setting the scene. That's the important part, okay? So don't give up on this. You're going to hear some silence. The silence is important because it builds up to the best part. Now you can. Now
I guess that was good, because if I would have played the next one, if I would have played this video, I told her it's not working.
And if you're only listening via audio, you need to pull your car over right now and watch this safely.
Okay, here we go. God.
Thank you. See ya.
That's a dweeb.
I got goosebumps.
So mean.
We got that one. We got.
All right. Well, as you can tell, I get scared very easily, but it doesn't bother me. I actually like to be scared, and I love to scare other people.
Yeah, that's why she had it coming. It's kind of like a theme in our office that we try to scare people, but I got punched once, not by Lindsay. So I've kind of taken a sabbatical from scaring people because it still hurts.
Well, and I've tried to record Emily, but the words that come out of her mouth, I will probably never be able to insert a video in here.
It startles me. I myself don't like to be frightened. I am stressed enough. So I don't need that.
Okay. Well, the reason we showed this little video is because some of you may know that the local report cards have come out, and
those are scary.
Scary. That's our segue into today's content. Today we're going to talk about the local report cards, but we're going to talk about it on a very level.
Yeah, it might even be good for people who aren't in education, who want to know a little bit more about what goes into the report cards.
Yeah, so we'll start with that today.
I do want to say one thing before we roll.
Oh.
No, we can roll just real quick. I feel like my posture is awful, but if I sit up, then I become a giant and we don't fit in the same frame. So do
I need to put the camera up a little bit?
No, it's fine. I'll just slouch. I just don't want people to think I'm a slob, you know?
Should we get you? Why don't go get the big wheelie chair?
That won't help. I need to be lower.
I bet that lowers.
No, I'm fine. I just
go
wanted
grab
to address it.
No,
I don't want the wheelie chair.
Fine. Okay. Then I guess we'll just get started, and I'm glad that we addressed
I just wanted to address it. I didn't want people to think I'm a slob. I mean, I am a slob, but you don't need to think that because of my posture.
Whatever. Okay. Well, I do have to say I did help her clean her office one time.
She did not help me clean.
I did. Although if anybody looked at my office right now, it is crazy.
I mean, it's a tough time right now. We're all just fighting to stay alive at this point.
So we are planning our professional learning conference that is taking place October 7th, and we have around 1,000 teachers coming. So you can imagine the kind of planning that goes into that. So if you would look at any of our offices, it's a hot mess express.
Hot
Name
mess.
tags, lanyards, gifts, shirts, like you
Mhm.
name it. It's a mess, but
Yeah.
it's going to be awesome. We're so excited.
So fun.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get into the local report card because we have to.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the local report cards have changed from a couple years ago. And when they changed, there have been some questions that have come up the last couple years, like where is this at on the local report card? Or I don't know how to read this. Or along with all of that, we get questions all the time. And we've had a lot of those questions come up this week because the local report cards have come out. So we thought, what a better way than to do a podcast on it. And we'll do it at a very basic level. So that way, anybody listening to this will have a better understanding of where to find the local report card and how to read it, because there are multiple components.
And I always like to think of the report card, the local report card, as almost like a summary. So like you have a piece of literature, right? And you can summarize it and you get the general idea of what's going on, but you don't get like all the beauty of the actual piece of literature itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just remember that this is just a summary.
The ELA teacher, she's
Yeah.
so good with words.
It's just a summary. We can't get
love
all the beauty that goes on in the day to day. This is just a little brief summary of what's going on.
Yeah. And so we did some professional development over the local report card with the whole district. And many times teachers think that it is only for those state tested areas, but every single teacher contributes in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we're just going to start off with the first component. Well, first, where you can find this at is the department's website.
I just Google it, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too.
Ohio State.
I don't
local
even
report
have
cards.
it as a favorite.
No,
Like
I
you
just
would think
Google
I'd
it.
have a favorite, but I don't.
No.
So yeah, I just always Google like local report card, and there it is. Okay, so we're going to start off. What you would do is you could search by district. You can also search by school, and when you do that, you'll see different components. There's also an overall rating that takes all those components into play.
And how are the ratings scored, Lindsay? Like what?
Oh, good idea. Yeah, because it used to be like A, B, C, D. It is no longer by letters. It is now by stars, which threw people for a loop, but there are now stars associated with the local report
Which I like
card,
that
each of those
better as well.
components.
Like
I
an
do
F
too.
is ugly.
Right.
I would take 1 star over an F any day. Like
I
Fs
agree.
are just brutal.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start with achievement. Achievement is very cut and dry. It really is just based on achievement. So you're going to see that we have notes. It's because we still have to refer back to our notes to make sure that we explain things correctly. And hopefully we explain everything correctly. There are even sometimes when we do professional development and we get questions that we're like, you know what? We have to look that up. There are technical documents for each of these components. So when we don't have an answer, we dig into those to find the answer.
Yeah, and a lot of these things have equations and algorithms that like
Yeah.
we'll never understand those. So
Nope.
I just trust that the statisticians have done their job.
Yep.
And,
That's
and
right.
then just roll.
So with the achievement component, it really is just based on the state test. It's on the performance for how they scored. It's a percentage of students that scored in the advanced, proficient, basic, limited, in each of those different areas. And that's really all it is. There is one section that is a reports only, and that's the performance indicators. This is where sometimes the question gets brought up, like our goal was to get 80% of our students or higher to be proficient. That's really not the case, but how that looked on the local report card is now off to the right-hand side, and it's called report only. And basically it's just a percentage of that achievement component overall. So it breaks it down by the grade level and content area.
And state tests, what, 3rd through 8th grade ELA and math,
Mm-hmm.
5th grade science, 8th grade science,
Right?
American history, government,
Algebra.
geometry,
Mhm.
10th grade ELA. Did we forget anything?
I don't think we did.
Okay. I just tend to forget like which,
Right.
sometimes it helps to know which grades are tested and what goes into that.
Yeah. Well, and so you'll see that on that achievement component, there's a percentage for the performance index, which people call it the PI for the school. That used to be out of 120. They since have changed that. So what they do is they look at the top 3 schools performance index, and then they put that out of the possibility of those points like all together. Am I saying this correctly?
Yeah, so your
So your
performance is
performance-
relative to the top 3 schools in the state.
Yes, correct. Which I like that change.
I agree, because you're not jumping to a level that nobody has attained. Like
Right.
I mean, it's setting the curve, honestly. Like back
Mhm.
in school when the teacher would set the curve based on the highest score. That's essentially what the state is doing as well.
Right. So then you get that percentage. 100% would be like that max percentage. And then that's how the stars are associated. Do you want to, since you had that up?
Well, it looks like if a district earns greater than or equal to 90% of the max score, which again, the max score is coming from the best of the best districts, they get 5 stars. 80 to 90 is 4, 70 to 80 is 3, 50 to 70 is 2, and less than 50 is 1 star. And actually, I think I was looking online earlier, and scores have improved like across the state, at least for literacy. Math, I think we're still struggling, but scores have improved across the state, at least for literacy. So,
Which is good to know because that's been all of our work the last 3
yeah,
years.
the efforts aren't going without seeing progress. So that's
Right.
good.
When we talk about the performance index, there are points associated with students that score in each of those different achievement levels. So that's where those points come from. So that, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail about how many points for each different performance level, but that's just something to know.
And like she said, for achievement, really it translates just to how we did on the state test. So that's a pretty, like she said, a pretty easy one, cut and dry to figure out.
Yep.
So, one thing that I think might be something that people might perceive as unfair with achievement is naturally, obviously, some districts are going to have higher performing students than other districts just because of demographics or location or funding or insert all the things we argue about with public education.
Mm-hmm.
So progress is a component that kind of takes that into account. Is that is that kind of fair? Because progress measures student academic growth. Let me actually real quick. Let me tell you a little something.
I'm sorry.
So our microphones. Wait, I forget what is what. Our little mix table over here that makes us look like legitimate people, like a wedding DJ. That's one brand. Our little buff things here, I don't know what they are. That's a brand. The arms are a brand. Well, we decided to get and our microphones are the brand, but we decided to get the, what are they called? Vibration protectors or something?
Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
Well, we ordered those in a different brand, and guess what? They didn't fit.
Here's the deal. All the stuff that came in a bundle was a brand, but the microphones when we got them were not that brand.
Long story short, our little vibratey thing that you wouldn't think would be a big deal, but anytime Lindsay moves a single, she slams her cup onto the table. It's like boom. Anyways,
okay, back to progress. Sorry,
we're the people you're supposed to trust.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. Where
no. I just explained that progress measures the student academic growth because, like we said, it's unfair. Some students, based on their abilities, even with the best instruction, their best achievement might be basic, and that's okay because we're trying to grow students to their best of their own abilities individually, not trying to get everybody to proficient or everybody to advanced. In some places that might be realistic, but in most schools that's not realistic. So progress is a great component because it takes into account how effective is our everyday instruction for each individual student.
So before I was ever in this role, when I thought of progress, I thought of value added, which has been a buzzword for many, many years. And teachers would cringe when they would hear the word because it was used as part of their evaluation. And it was like, if you weren't growing students, you would be dinged in a variety of ways, on their evaluation. Now that has changed a little bit, but there are so many reports within the progress component. Because really all we're trying to do is meet our students where they are and we want them to grow. On the local report card, this is where districts say we have 3 stars and they get upset about it because everybody wants an A, right? Everybody wants the 5 stars. But when it comes to progress, if you have 3 stars, it means that you have met growth. Your students have met growth. They are continuing to grow. If you have 4 stars, 5 stars, they are exceeding that growth. If you have a 1 or 2 star, it's because students across the state have passed those groups of students or that district, I guess is the best way.
So
to
what you're
kind of
saying is if
explain
I'm a parent and I'm looking at my local report card and we have 3 stars, I'm happy and proud about that for progress.
it. Yes. Yep.
And I think, progress, I don't know if our admin would disagree, but I feel like progress is one of the hardest.
100%.
Because it's
Sorry,
just.
I'm really having issues over here. I think my headphones are a little big, and it kind here. Let me just. I'm gonna.
Are the headphones
feel
big
better.
or is your head too small?
That might be it. Okay. So where that progress comes from is the value added.
Yeah.
And there's really not much to say besides it's just are the students growing as compared to all the other students across state in that content area, that grade level.
Yeah. I think the best
Right.
analogy you use is the running analogy.
Right.
Because not everybody's fast, not everybody's really slow, but the state essentially, and not just the state, statisticians, there are chunks of kids who should finish together, right? Just like if we had a race with 20,000 people, there are chunks of people that will fit in the front or finish in the front, chunks of people that will finish in the middle, chunks of people that will finish in the back. You have met growth as long as your students stay with that pack that they were running with. If you have students who were in the middle of the pack and they finish in the front, then you showed a tremendous amount of growth. If you have students who started in the middle and they finished with those students who started in the back of the pack, then we have significant evidence that there was not the growth that was needed. And again, this is for particular groups of students. So again, not expecting a limited student to suddenly become proficient in a year.
Yep. All right. It took us a hot minute. We had to just brief ourselves on how we were best going to explain gap closing because this one is a little bit trickier, I think. But basically, this is off of your subgroups of students. So there is an achievement goal that changes every year because the goal is to get them to 100%. So that goal changes on that achievement level, the percentage of students that are meeting that achievement level. You have to have 15 students in order to make a subgroup. So some of our districts, they don't have enough students to make a subgroup. So the possible points for this, it's off of achievement, but it's also off of their progress. So if they have met the achievement goal for that subgroup, they can earn a point. If they have met the progress, like that subgroup has grown, then they earn a point. But not all schools will have subgroups.
Because subgroups can include economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, white non-Hispanic. So obviously, some of the districts that we work with don't have all of the subgroups that other districts may have.
Correct.
Does that penalize them?
No, because it's only going to give them points. Like it will say for this district, whatever, they can earn 3 points for the ELA component. So there's also different, there can be 3 points for ELA for math, but only for those subgroups. So if you have 2 kids, guess what? Then you weren't able to earn any points for that.
Because if they score at least 60% of the points that they could earn, then they get 5 stars.
Then they get 5 stars.
Got it.
Yes. Yep.
Cool beans.
Yeah. So that's really gap closing in a nutshell. Okay. Again, I said gap closing I thought was kind of difficult to explain. I think the early literacy can be a little bit difficult to explain.
Early literacy is tough. Now, this might be a silly question, Lindsay, but if I was looking at a specific high school, would they have an early literacy score if I was looking at a high school for a district?
That's a great question. No, this is only going to be for elementary or if you're looking at your whole school local report card. Your middle school and high school will not have the early lit because it really is only K-3.
Got it.
Yes. So the early literacy component has 3 different areas that are taken into consideration that have a percentage that go into the star rating. You have your proficiency in 3rd grade reading, promotion to 4th grade, and then you have your improving K-3 literacy. Proficiency to 3rd grade is just reading proficiently at 3rd grade. So taking into the consideration the state test, the students that are scoring proficient in reading at 3rd grade. What is the percentage of that? And then that's taken into consideration, and then there's a weight established with that. Promotion to fourth grade, what is the percentage of students that were promoted to fourth grade? And then there's a weight to that. The last part is improving K-3 literacy. And this is where sometimes it gets a little confusing, but really it's not. Because typically we're looking at only state test. For improving your K-3 literacy, what we're looking at is what's called a diagnostic assessment. And those early grade levels know exactly what that is. They are going to do an assessment at the beginning of the year. And if students are on track, and moving to on track from kindergarten to first grade to second grade, and all of that, that's where that comes from. It's coming from a fall diagnostic, not from a state test.
Yeah, I think that makes
Now, I
sense.
will say that sometimes our districts won't have a percentage associated with this. That's because 90% or more of their kindergarten students scored as on track. And if that's the case, then that portion of it,
The improving K-3 literacy.
just the improving K-3 literacy. So some of our districts do have, like, they will see nothing in that spot, and it's because they had 90% of their students that scored on track with their kindergarten diagnostic. So
long story short, you want your K-3 people to be on track or proficient or proficient.
Yep.
And I feel like, and this might only strike a few people, but this was a big kind of hill I had to climb over as I was understanding early literacy, because I'm not an early literacy person. When we use the word diagnostic in kindergarten, that's just something that's given to everybody, right? To measure their ability, their reading abilities. But when we're talking about diagnostic in the dyslexia world or
Right.
struggling readers, that's something we would give later on to
Later
figure
on.
out what's going on for a student who's struggling.
That would be given after a universal screener is done
Okay.
with the
So
student.
you may hear
yes.
diagnostic
Yep.
used two
Used
different ways.
different ways. Yes, correct. And that was confusing for
That
a
was
lot
very
of people.
confusing at the beginning.
Yeah. So I almost like to call it like a tier 2 screener when we're talking about dyslexia,
Yeah, because not all students would get it, but
because not all students will
the
get it.
diagnostic for kindergartners, everybody gets it.
Yes, just students that are flagged as being off track.
Got it.
So that would be the early literacy component.
All right. As usual, Lindsay feels like she's talking too much.
I
so-
do. I am talking. too
Which
much.
she doesn't understand. I am the color commentator. We talked about this. I am the personality hire. I'm just here for the dazzle.
That's
You
right. I'm
bring
the peanut
razzle.
butter.
Yep.
I bring the razzle. I feel like razzle is like,
No, the dazzle's like dazzle.
oh, I
The
guess when
razzle's
you
like
put razzle
razzle.
and dazzle
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, you got the razzle.
I didn't see that you referred to yourself as.
I'm the dazzle,
okay.
the sparkly one.
Okay.
No,
Alright,
I'm
I
not.
like it.
I'm not sparkly, but okay. The good news is she gave me the graduation component, which is just about as easy as it gets. If students are graduating within 5 years, so it does take into account the 5-year graduation rate and the 4-year graduation rate, and the stars are pretty clear cut. They're weighted, and then whatever that weighted percentage is, if it's greater than or equal to 96.5%, they're getting 5 stars. And then less than 84% will get you 1 star. So anything that falls within there, 4, 3, 2 stars.
Yeah.
But it really is just.
I feel
already
like it really
graduating
is
kids.
pretty cut and dry. 4-year graduation, 5-year graduation. What's
Yep.
that percentage? And then it goes into that component. Yep. All right. So there is one more component, and it is the college, career, workforce, and military readiness, which it's on there. Like, you can see data, but it actually does not go into your local report card at all. Like, yet. It is to come. And it does say that right on that page.
Mm-hmm.
The earliest that potentially would be, it says now, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I would say it's to come.
But you were looking at it, and it's basically just like how ready are they for the workforce?
Yes.
Apprenticeships.
There's like the
and-
percentage of students that earned industry recognized credentials,
Honors.
ACT, honors, apprenticeships. Yeah, all of that goes into that. And that's probably because our graduation requirements have changed over the last several years.
Yeah, there's a lot
So
more avenues to graduating than just academic,
Yeah.
quote
So-
unquote academic as we think of them avenues. There are
Right.
many more avenues for students to take that are more useful for their future,
Right.
because not everybody needs to be a scholar and everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Talk about that all
honing
the
in
time.
on what students are good at.
Yeah. So all those different components that we talked about go into that overall rating. And I needed to look this up because each of those components have a different weight to it. So you have your achievement component and your progress component. Those weigh the most, like 28%. The graduation is like 14%, early literacy 14%, gap closing 14%. So all of those weights go into the overall rating. So when you see a district and it has an overall rating of 5 stars or 3 stars, it's taking into consideration all of those different components.
I don't
Did
know
I
that
miss
there's
anything?
anything else to say. No,
All right. Besides, I talk too much.
you don't talk too much. The razzle.
Awesome. All right. Real quick before we get to the joke of the day that Emily is over here like
It'll be good.
putting together. We just wanted to quickly talk about how we support teachers with all this data because sometimes teachers don't ever look at the local report card. So we have done some professional learning to help support those teachers so that way they do know what they're looking at. And that way they know how the data is being used to the public.
Yeah, and I think I the reason I wanted to call this slide supporting teachers or this little excerpt of supporting teachers because we've lived in a culture where data has often been used to villainize teachers and educators and leaders and it's important to hold people accountable, right?
Right.
Like that is the importance of data. We do need to be held accountable. But like we said at the beginning, it's a snapshot of what's happening at the district. So what we like to do is show teachers data in a light that allows them to make students better. It's not in a way to make anybody feel bad or to make anybody feel like they're not doing as well as another district or another teacher. It is the people in your classroom, the individual humans in your classroom. How can you use that data to make them better readers, make them better mathematicians, make them better inquiry, curious science students? That's kind of how I think we approach these conversations in this professional development in a way that supports teachers.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we feel like if you are meeting your student needs, and whether that is like socially, behavior wise, it's not just your academics, but you are meeting your students where they're at. They are going to grow in their achievement.
100%.
And how we prepare them for that, like it's just teaching our standards. If you're teaching your standards, you're covering your standards at the rigor that they need to be covered, they're going to do fine on the state test. So we take it from that angle where we show them the different resources, we show them the standards, we walk them through that. But there are a lot of really good reports where you can even get down to individual student reports to see like how is this child projected to score, or how can I support this student, or over time, I can see how much a student has grown over time. So we take them through a lot of those different reports because sometimes just looking at that can help you better understand where your student is at.
Yeah, and the best way to support teachers is to support teachers, right?
And one of the things that we will be sharing with teachers, admins, is we call it a testing resource page on our website that we've been updating. And basically all it is when we go in to do professional development, we take them through different reports and different resources, but it is like a ton of information in a short amount of time. And when teachers want to go back, they can't find what they're looking for. So this really is a tool in their toolbox to be able to go back, find what they're looking for. We have videos that we're doing so that way they can get to those reports easily. And those videos are like short, like, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute, maybe, just to show them how to access that report and what they can do with that report. So that is to come, and we will include that in our upcoming Learning Waves and probably one of our podcasts, I would assume.
Yeah, and if you ever have questions, you know where to find us. We can help you.
That's right. So, all right, I guess we'll get to the joke of the day. What?
Okay, hey, Lindsay,
What?
this is the best joke. This is going to be the best joke yet.
I bet it is.
Okay, Lindsay, what has 5 toes and isn't your foot?
I don't know.
My foot.
Where did you get that one?
If you have children around, you might want to shield their ears because I'm a little angry. If you notice the sound quality of this one's a little different, it's because my friend Lindsay here forgot to plug the microphones into the computer. We were trying to do this cute little monster voice to be spooky, and it wasn't working. Do you know why? because it wasn't plugged in. We did this beautiful podcast on the state report card, which is not an easy topic. All that time, and it wasn't plugged in.
I know. I'm so sorry.
She's not sorry.
I can't believe the longest podcast.
I'm the nicest
Hey,
coworker in the world.
We looked like we were official podcasters, though.
But we sound awful, so sorry.
So apparently, I am the joke of the day.
Have a good day.